I don't even know what to say right now. The PlayStation 5 reveal just wrapped up. Did it live up to the hype? Spoiler alerts, yes it did. Let's just get into this video because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. But let's talk about this PlayStation 5 reveal because, wow. Wow. So to kick things off, they started off with a PlayStation 4 montage for some reason, and it kind of made me a little bit worried about this presentation. Were they just going to recycle stuff? Did they not have enough stuff to fill out the hour plus that they were touting that this presentation would be? And then they quickly got into the new content, which I think everyone was looking forward to. GTA 5 expanded and enhanced will be coming in 2021, but they did show PS4 footage from this game. It looks like they're going to expand upon the story. There's going to be a whole bunch of new mission types as well, and obviously this game will be enhanced for the PlayStation 5. But like I said, they showed it running on a PlayStation 4, so once again, I was kind of getting a bit worried about this presentation, but then I quickly started to not be worried anymore. They said that everything else we would see from this PlayStation 5 event would be captured on a PlayStation 5, which is really what it should have been in the first place. I don't know why you're showing me PlayStation 4 stuff in a PlayStation 5 reveal event. The first game they started out with was Spider-Man Miles Morales. Yes, folks, a new Spider-Man game. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to be a full-on new Spider-Man game. It looks like it's going to be sort of like an expansion to Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4. They didn't show a whole lot of it, but what they did show seemed to be very, very promising. I thought the gameplay itself looked really fun. The graphics looked absolutely amazing. They're obviously utilizing that full power of the PlayStation 5, and this is actually going to be a holiday 2020 release as well. So this is pretty much within the launch window of the PlayStation 5. They did not give an exact date on it, but I wouldn't be surprised if this game is actually a launch title for the PlayStation 5, and definitely a great way to start things out. Spider-Man was one of the best PlayStation 4 games, arguably the best. I might have liked it a little bit more than God of War personally, but there's definitely people that liked God of War more, so that is okay with me. Next up, we saw a series that has been kind of quiet lately, and a series that I'm a big fan of, and that is Gran Turismo 7. Now, right off the bat, Gran Turismo is always known for really good graphics in my opinion. The car models themselves look fantastic, and Gran Turismo 7 really is no exception to this. There's so much detail on these car models, and I'm actually someone who's into cars and things like that. Just the individual stitching that you could see on the inside of the car as far as the seats were concerned, all the different sorts of gears and whatnot for the vehicles themselves just looked absolutely stunning. One thing I really liked about this was they did show the campaign mode for the game, and the campaign mode is now back to a standard Gran Turismo campaign mode, which is what I preferred. GT Sport was a fun game, but I didn't like that, you know, the weird sort of campaign mode that it had. I prefer the more traditional Gran Turismo campaign, so I was definitely very glad to see that back. Now, one thing I was a bit concerned with, though, is that they didn't show any vehicle damage in this game. Now, Gran Turismo definitely isn't known for vehicle damage. They never really have any sort of vehicle damage. The best that you get is just sort of a smear that happens with the cars, but they didn't show any sort of cars hitting each other to show if there was going to be vehicle damage in this game. I honestly hope that there is, because I feel like when you're playing a realistic racing game, there should be damage, because when you hit another car, like, stuff happens. But all in all, I thought the game looked absolutely phenomenal, and I'm definitely really looking forward to it. Then we saw another just mind-blowing game. This was arguably one of the best games that we saw during this presentation, and that was Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This game just looked, oh, holy crap, man. It looked absolutely fantastic. My mouth was like gaping open, like the whole time I was watching it. It looked so fantastic. There's varying types of gameplay mixed in with a ton of different style of environments that you're going to be in. There's sort of rifts that happen that sort of change up the environment that you're in as well. The animations looked absolutely insane. There's tons of details in the indestructible environments that you have within the levels themselves, and the enemy models looked really impressive. Everything just looked just stunning. It really looked like a next generation game, like something that couldn't be done on the current generation of consoles. The combat itself looked really fun as well, with a bunch of different types of weapons that also impact the environments themselves. This was probably the deepest look we got as far as actual gameplay is concerned during this presentation for all of the games, and I think it was definitely a great way to show off the PlayStation 5. Yes, it's not really a realistic looking style game, but I thought this game was just absolutely breathtaking. It was arguably one of my favorite games from this presentation, and it's definitely going to be a day one purchase for me. Next up, we we saw Project Athia from Square Enix. Like, visually it looks solid, but we didn't really see anything in terms of gameplay. We saw like a couple really long jumps, and then that was pretty much it, and then they moved on to the next game, so I will be moving on to the next game. The next game was a game called Stray. It was kind of a weird game, something that I will not personally play because you play as a cat. Now, I don't hate cats or anything like that. There's a black cat that hangs out in my backyard sometimes. He seems like a nice fellow, but personally, I am allergic to cats, and cats just don't seem to like me. But it's a game where you're in sort of like a cyberpunk future playing as a stray cat. You know, I think some people will really enjoy this game. You know, cat lovers will probably be crapping their pants over this. Like, oh, you can play as a kitty, but like, I would rather play as a dog and like pee on stuff and like, you know, hump people's legs and stuff like that. But Stray, it does look somewhat interesting. We didn't really see any gameplay, mostly a cinematic trailer for this game. Then of course we got some of the features of the PlayStation 5 ran down: 4K Ultra Blu-ray, ultra high speed SSD, ray tracing, haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, a USB port on the controller, motion sensor on the controller, built-in microphone and speaker, 3D audio. This was all basic stuff that we already knew about the controller, but I guess it was nice to see. We also got some more close-up shots of the controller itself, and it was a two-tone controller. And like I've always said, this was going to be a two-tone system if the controller was a two-tone system. Did we see the system though? Did we actually get to learn about what color the system is? Oh, we'll just wait around and find out. Next up, we learned about a game called Returnal. It was a third-person shooter game that I thought looked kind of interesting, but really weird. I didn't quite understand what was happening storyline with it, like why this person was sort of going to these different environments. It almost had like a bit of an Aliens feel to it. The voice actress kind of sounded like Sigourney Weaver in the first place, so I thought that was kind of interesting. I actually thought it was potentially going to be an Aliens game, but no, it is a new game called Returnal. I'll have to see more from it and sort of, you know, get deeper into the story for the actual game itself before I really commit interest to it, but I do think it shows some promise. Next up, we learned about Sackboy A Big Adventure. Now, Sackboy is of course the mascot for Little Big Planet, but now Sackboy is essentially getting his own 3D platformer, and I thought this game looked absolutely fantastic. It looked like a combo of like a Super Mario game and a Yoshi game in terms of the graphics of it, and it looked just like a lot of fun, a lot of cool environments that you visit. It looks like this game is going to have co-op for up to 4 players as well. I'm not sure if that's going to be local or online co-op. I'm sure it'll probably be both, as that seems to be somewhat the industry standard right now, but I thought this game was definitely very beautiful looking. It looked really awesome. I really liked what we saw from it, and the platforming itself seemed like it was very solid. Definitely a cool thing to see. I love 3D platformers. It's really a genre of games that I always seem to enjoy. So Sackboy getting his own 3D platforming game, I think is a very cool thing. Next up, we saw a game called Destruction All-Stars. It was a combat style game, and it kind of looked neat, but honestly, I'll probably pass on it. Now, I do think the destruction elements on the vehicles themselves look very nice. There was, you know, individual pieces of vehicles falling off and whatnot. Sort of has a futuristic setting as well. It looks like it's going to be somewhat based on characters as well. They showed off a couple different characters for the game, but just for me personally, I probably won't play this game, maybe pick it up when it's on sale. But I think if you're a fan of games like Destruction Derby, but you want like a more futuristic setting, this could be potentially a cool game. The next game was a game called Kena Bridge of Spirits, and at first I was watching this game and I was like, okay, you know, I see what you're doing here. It looks a little bit meh. But then the gameplay hit and I was like, what is this? This looked absolutely fantastic. It is a 3D action platformer, and it has great graphics and weather and lighting effects, like some of the most impressive weather and lighting effects that I saw during this whole presentation. And the combat looks really fun as well. You basically restore different areas from an evil presence to a good presence, and it impacts the world that you're in. You're basically trying to rescue these little furry black creatures as well. A really cool looking game. I really liked what I saw from this. Like I said, at first I was like, you know, whatever, it's not really my sort of game, but then once that gameplay hit, I was like, okay, now I'm on board with this. This looks kind of like a Zelda style game, and I definitely dig that. Next up, we learned about Goodbye Volcano, and I mean, I'm good on this. It seems like one of those, you know, sort of sentimental story-driven games, and yeah, I don't really do those too much. Next up was a game called Ghostwire Tokyo. Of course, we've learned about this game previously, but now we got to see this game in action, and you're basically trying to save Tokyo from the supernatural that is invading the city. The city itself looked absolutely fantastic. There was a lot of styles of different Japanese horror included in this game as well, and the combat actually takes place in a first-person perspective, and I thought it looked really cool. I definitely want to get some more information on this game as far as the story is concerned with it, but I definitely like what I saw from this. It really looked like a big open open world Tokyo setting that was very, very detailed. So I dig horror games and supernatural style games, so I think I'll end up digging this game. Next was Jet the Far Shore. It was just a weird space game, and really, I just had no interest in it, but maybe you did. If you did, that's cool, but for me, no thank you. No thank you. Godfall was, of course, the first PlayStation 5 game announced that is coming to us from Gearbox, and we actually got an in-depth look at the gameplay for Godfall, and you know what? I think it looks pretty damn good. It's a third-person hack-and-slash style game with some very interesting environments and very large battles that you end up encountering. I would say the most impressive thing about it maybe wasn't so much the graphics of it, but the combat of the game. It was really very fluid, I thought, and it looked like it was very smooth and easy to control as well, and you do these big attacks on all these waves of enemies and bigger boss battles. I definitely liked what I saw from this game. Godfall at first really wasn't sort of on my radar, but after watching this trailer for the game, I definitely have a lot more interest in this game, and this of course is a PlayStation 5 exclusive title. Next up, we learned about Solar Ash, and really this was more like Solar Ass. No, I really don't have anything to say on it because they really didn't show anything from the game. It looked sort of like a standard current gen indie game. I'm sure it'll be somewhat interesting, but they really didn't show anything from this game, so I didn't really understand the point of showcasing this game when, you know, it didn't really do anything for PlayStation 5 would-be fans. Now, the next game was actually a pretty big surprise. That was Hitman 3. You were once again playing as Agent 47, and I thought the graphics of the game looked really solid, but they didn't really show much in terms of the gameplay. I really like the Hitman games. Honestly, I used to play them back on the GameCube. Hitman 2 was just an absolutely fantastic GameCube game, and I think that this game could be something really special. We definitely need to see more from it, but I am a fan of the Hitman franchise, and considering that this is a traditional Hitman game, something that we haven't seen in quite a while, I'm definitely sort of on board for this. Then we actually got a little look at the PlayStation 5 intro screen, and I mean, it looked cool. It told you to press the button on your controller in order to activate the system, which, you know, is pretty standard for how controllers and systems work, but you know, not too bad. And then another 3D platformer was introduced to us called Astrobot Playroom. Now, of course, Astrobot was a very popular PlayStation VR game, and there was no PlayStation VR related stuff at this event, but Astrobot is a 3D platformer. It looks pretty fun. It looks pretty charming. I'm not quite sure that it looks all that sort of innovative, but it looks like a very solid 3D platformer, and it's interesting to see 3D platformers sort of getting a resurgence on the PlayStation 5, as I think that it's sort of time for this to happen. 2D platformers have had a big resurgence lately, but now it's time for the 3D platformers to have that sort of resurgence. The next game was a game called Little Devil Inside. Now, this was a very weird game, but I kind of dig it, mainly because of the art style of the game and the humor of the game. I felt that it was a very Tim Burton-like art style. You could have told me that this was a Tim Burton movie, and I probably would have been like, oh, okay, I believe you. It's basically a 3D action-adventure game, and I thought the combat of the game looked really nice as well. I'm interested to see how the story sort of works. They showed like a main character that you play as, and then an older gentleman who was like pooping at one point in time, but I definitely think this game has sort of some potential, and since I am a fan of Tim Burton stuff, I definitely dug the art style of this game. Next up, we got a series that I am a huge fan of, as you guys are well aware, NBA 2K21, and basically it was Zion Williamson in an empty gym, but I thought what we saw looked very, very impressive. There were some insane facial animations that were on Zion Williamson that almost looked like a television broadcast of an NBA game. There were some insane sweat effects as well, which that always seems to be like a big priority, like sweat effects on these next generation basketball games. I remember that being a big deal with the last generation as well. I definitely want to see more from this game though. I want to see some actual, you know, teams playing against each other, but I'm definitely looking forward to NBA 2K21 on the PlayStation 5. Next up, we learned about a game called Bug Snacks, which, I don't know, I kind of like faded in and out when they were showing this game. It really wasn't that interesting to me. Some people on the internet seem to be very excited for it. I'm glad that you are excited for it. Me personally, this is more than likely a pass. Demon's Souls Remastered is coming to the PlayStation 5. This was one of the worst kept secrets on the PlayStation 5. This is the game that actually Bluepoint Games has been working on. A lot of people were speculating on what Bluepoint was going to do next, and a lot of people felt that it was going to be Demon's Souls Remastered, and here we are. We didn't really see any sort of gameplay from it. It was just a cinematic trailer confirming that Demon's Souls was coming to the PlayStation 5 with the remastered edition, so considering Bluepoint does excellent work, I'm sure this will be an excellent game. Deathloop, which was a Bethesda E3 game that that we learned about last year, but we didn't really get much in terms of gameplay. Got a lot of gameplay. This is a futuristic first-person shooter game. You can rewind time. Everyone is basically trying to kill you on this island that you're on, and there are 8 targets that you have to eliminate before midnight, so you kind of can't really die. I thought the gameplay looked insanely fluid. You could do physical attacks along with your weapon attacks as well. You could sort of traverse to different areas by teleporting to different areas. I just think this game looks really fun. Maybe not the most next generation looking game in terms of graphics, but I thought the gameplay looked absolutely fantastic. So Deathloop definitely has a lot of potential. Now the next game was a game that I said I felt was going to be at this event, and a lot of people doubted me, but you know what? Doubt me now, bitches, because Resident Evil 8 was at this event and I absolutely lost. I don't even know what to say about this. Like, it just looks so good. Once again, we did a video talking about the rumors for Resident Evil 5, that it was going to take place within a village setting, and yes, once again, it does take place within a village setting. It will have a first-person perspective, which once again was confirmed, and that you will be playing as Chris Redfield, and that was also confirmed as well. I think this game it just looks so good. There's like a weird witch creature that's chasing you around. The graphics themselves look absolutely phenomenal. I was so happy to see Resident Evil 8. I thought they could have ended the presentation with Resident Evil 8, and I just would have been happy. You know, that would have been fine with me, but no, there was more games. We learned about a game called Pragmata from Capcom as well. You're basically like in an abandoned Times Square. There's a strange girl with a spaceman, and she has a digital cat. What is it with cats in this presentation? And like I said, I'm allergic to cats, but like, this is a digital cat, so maybe it wouldn't make me sneeze. I really have no clue what was going on in this game because they didn't really show any sort of gameplay. You went from this weird Times Square to the moon, and that was it. So, okay, you know, maybe they'll show some more of that game in the near future. And the final game that we learned about was, of course, another game I predicted. I predicted 2 games at this thing: Horizon Zero Dawn 2 and Resident Evil 8. And you know what? I was 100% on my predictions. Horizon Forbidden West is Horizon Zero 2, and it just looks absolutely stunning. There's lots of underwater segments. I really don't even know what to say about this game. The characters, the environments, the views that you have on these environments. There's much more life in the world itself. The combat looks awesome as well. Just an absolutely breathtaking looking game. Like, this looked, once again, like a proper next generation game. Something that, you know, will push the limits of the PlayStation 5 right out of the gate to show what this system is capable of, and I was absolutely blown away by what we saw with this game. And that was the final game that was presented during this presentation. But Sony did not stop there. They actually showed off the system, and like I said, a 2-tone controller means a 2-tone system, and well, I was right, because it was a 2-tone system, and I think it looks weird. It's definitely a very unique looking system, unlike anything that we have ever seen in terms of a traditional console. It has like pointy edges on it so you can stab someone with it if they try to break into your house, but I thought it looked pretty cool, you know, as a whole. But the more interesting thing was that there's going to be a digital edition of this console. So much like Xbox is rumored to have the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Lockhart, with the Xbox Lockhart being a digital only system, now PlayStation has actually confirmed that there will be a PlayStation 5 digital edition system. And that is just absolutely crazy to me. They beat Microsoft to the punch after this had been so heavily rumored for so long. And then they showed some of the accessories for the system, and then the presentation ended. So all in all, this presentation was fantastic, I thought. Yes, there were some low points with it. There were some games that probably had no business being there, but the amount of games that we saw in terms of gameplay, in terms of raw gameplay, you know, we got so much more gameplay than we did with the Xbox Series X game reveal event. You got big iconic third-party titles like Resident Evil 8. You have huge first-party titles like Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and the new Horizon Zero Dawn game. You got new IPs involved in this as well. Just as a whole, this was a fantastic presentation. Sony had definitely been lagging sort of behind what Microsoft was doing, and you know, it looked like Microsoft was beating Sony to the punch at pretty much every corner, but this was just a haymaker from Sony. They're like, yo, the PlayStation 5 is legit. The PlayStation 5 is here, and we have the games to prove it. All in all, I was absolutely thrilled with this presentation. Definitely a few lowlights from it. Like I said, a couple of the games just felt a bit out of place, but as a whole, you know, you can't deny this. Like, this was a great day for fans of video games. We learned learned about the PlayStation 5, we saw the system, we saw the games for it. Now we just need to see the price of it, because if they're doing an all digital version, I think that this system might end up being $600 at the end of the day. I think both the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 are looking at the $600 price point potentially, because of the fact that they seem to both be doing all digital editions of these systems, which of course would probably be closer to $300 or $400 if they were to do that. I of course will be buying the system that has the physical system with it. I want to play actual discs on here, but just absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to see what else Sony has up their sleeve. And now Microsoft, I believe, is the one trailing behind. They need to have a very strong presentation when it comes to their first party titles, but I think they will at the end of the day. But let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of this presentation. Obviously this was a pretty long video because there was a lot of stuff to cover, and I was very excited for it. And as always guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Check out other videos on the channel, and as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.